All right. You're rolling, man.
We're rolling. Okay. Little edit. It's fine. You got one? Oh! It's perfect. We didn't start yet. Dope Bears here. That's a nice shirt. Look at you. How about that? You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
I'm very impressed. Adam gave me the eyes emoji.
Oh, you're streaming now?
All on all streaming platforms.
Spotify?
Everything.
24/6.
In the car, yeah.
24/6.
I'm not that from. Okay. Let's learn a little Sfas Emes. Here we go. We'll try to learn together. Okay, tonight's learning should be for a Sfas, continued for Shalem, for Shem Dvar Bas Chayachana, for Yaakov, Mordechai ben Yutaratza, for Chamutal Bas Naomi, and we continue to daven and learn as a Sfas for the Chayalim. They should be successful, they should be healthy, they should be unharmed. The Chatufim, they should be returned, and the Cholim, everybody should have Refuah Shalema, and we should hear Besuros Tovos from Eretz Yisrael. And down with Iran, exactly. So let's take a look at the second piece here. Tafresh Lamed Aleph quotes the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos that many of us are familiar with. That Kina, Taiva, and Kavod are Motziin es Adam min Holam. Kina, jealousy, Taiva, temptation, and Kavod, pursuing honor, so that ends up taking a person out of this world. V'nilmad mi Korach, and we learn this from Korach. Says the Sfas Emes, sheniskane ki mi shedavok b'pnimius achiyos memela yesh lo dveikus l'klal Yisrael ki b'shoresh miyuchadam kol b'nei Yisrael. So it's a big sentence. Let's unpack it. V'nilmad mi Korach, we learned this from Korach, who was jealous. What was he jealous of? What did he want? He wanted authority. He wanted a position of power. So in a sense, he wanted kavod, and he was also jealous, right? He had that. In this kind of kimisha davuk b'pnimius achiyos, someone who's connected to the pnimius, someone who's really connected to what's animating life, to what's giving chiyus to the entire world. And we know that's a Kadosh Baruch Hu. I'm gonna keep mine, so I know where we're up to. Memela yesh lo dveikus l'klal Yisrael. So if a person's plugged into Pnimius, if a person's plugged into HaKadosh Baruch Hu, recognize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the driving force of everything in the world. So then, says the Sfas Emes, Memela, you're going to recognize what's the driving force behind every single Yid. What's the Pnimius of every single Jew? That's the Neshama. And we know, like we've been saying, that the Neshama is the Chelek Elokami Mal, and we're all connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because we all have a piece of Hashem in us. So if I'm focusing on your inner Chiyas, and your inner Chiyas, and your inner Chiyas, so all of a sudden, that's a unifier also. Says the Sfas Emes, Yesh lo dveikus l'klal Yisrael ki b'shoresh miyuchadam kol b'nei Yisrael. Mamela, we're all going to be connected. We're all going to be connected. V'zeu shekasa b'gemara b'Shabbos, a pretty well-known Gemara in Masechah Shabbos and Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph. Beger she'amar girani. He says, "Come, I want to teach me kol haTorah kula on one leg. Kol zman she'emod al regel echad. Elmad kol haTorah. Give me it all on one foot." So Shammai pushes him away, but v'amar lo Hillel v'yahavta re'echa kamocha. V'yahavta re'echa ikir haTorah idach pirusha. So you have to love another person like yourself, and the rest is the perush. Everything else is an explanation. Ki klal haTorah lios ha'adam davuk b'chiyas ha'penimis, v'hi haTorah. That is the Torah. Again, one more time. He said v'yahavta l're'echa kamocha. Everything else is just explanation. Why is v'yahavta l're'echa kamocha v'klal? Why is it klal gadol b'Torah? Why is it the one thing that Hillel was telling this potential ger, to focus on? Well, how do we accomplish v'yahavta l're'echa kamocha? So we saw the Sfas Emes in Parshas Kedoshim, and he's referenced it now a couple other times post Parshas Kedoshim, but he's focusing on this idea. How do you love another Jew? Well, you have to focus on the Pnimius, and you have to recognize what connects you guys. The fact that we have a Neshama, the fact that we're a Chelek HaMimal, the fact that we both come from Kadosh Baruch Hu. When you're able to focus on the common ground, so then that Abba is a lot easier, because you realize your mamish connected, you're cut from the same cloth. Ki klal haTorah lios ha'adam davak b'chiyus ha'penimis, v'hi haTorah. So says the Sfas Emes, it's not just the Chelek Elokami Mal, but it's the Torah. Meaning, at our core, it's the Torah. We've said maybe in previous weeks, this idea of the baby in utero learns Kol HaTorah Kula, and then gets the little patch, forgets Kol HaTorah Kula. The Gemara tells us, but why do we need to do that? Why do we learn Kol HaTorah Kula if we're just going to forget it?
So we can be familiar with it.
Oh, so you can be. So all of a sudden you learn to, you're like, oh, I've heard that before. Where did you hear it? I don't know. It sounds familiar. What? My mom is telling me, exactly. I love that, So perhaps building on what Dov is saying, it's this idea that it's embedded in you. It's mamash part of you. L'chaye olam nata b'sochenu. At our core, Torah is part of us. Kikol hanivra me'osios haTorah. We have a Masorah that everything that was created through the osios haTorah, through the letters of the Torah. Kamosha Kasav the Zohar says, Be'oraisa bara kutshabrichu alma. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world through the Torah. V'chin shemati, he quotes in the Chidush Erim, based on the pasuk by Yosef at Tzaddik. I put most of the pasuk by Yashba. Yosef es b'nei Yisrael lemor pakod yifkod v'halisim es atzmosayim. He said, "Bring me up from Mitzrayim. Don't forget about me." What's that all about? It says the Chidush Erim, Ki lios davuk b'penimius hu b'chinas Yosef shomer habris. Yosef at Tzaddik was the person who never ever forgot who he was, and never ever forgot Yukno Shel Aviv. He had the image of his father. He knew who he was, even though he was in Mitzrayim, even though he was in the throes of the greatest Yetzer Hara that ever walked the face of the planet. He never forgot who he was. He was Shomer Bris. V'hahefoch ksiv rekev atzmos kina. That the jealousy can lead to the decay of someone's bones. Ad kan devaro bekitzer. That's the Chidush Arim bekitzer. V'hu kinal ki ha'ikr lios davuk b'penimius achios. What's the Chidush Arim saying? Says the Sfas Emes that his grandfather was teaching us a lesson in focusing on the core. V'hu pirush zechira d'chsev l'man tiskuru. Kamosh kasafti b'makom acher, like we saw in Parshas Shlach, this idea of l'man tiskuru, to remember. And we see the tzitzis, and we saw the two pieces by the Sfas Emes in last week's Parsha about this idea of focusing on the tzitzis as a reminder, reminding us of two different things, but to recognize that you can see one little string or a couple little strings, and all of a sudden you're connecting to what actually matters, and you're not, caught and distracted by all the other narishkeit that we see, but you're able to really hone in on and focus on what matters. V'az be'emes, says the Sfas Emes here, something awesome. V'az be'emes kol masa v'kol azmanim hakol echad. What does that mean? Just translate the words. It sounds kind of funny. Az be'emes, in reality, kol ma'asav, all his actions, v'kol azmanim, in all time, hakol echad, one. It's all really one. They're not separate actions. It's not separate times. What does that mean? Because at the core, the Nakuda is from Hashem Yisparach, and Hashem is l'malam and Azman. Hashem is above everything. He's l'malam and Ateva, he's l'malam and Azman. Kol HaTorah Kula Regel Echad. How can you teach someone Kol HaTorah Kula in 1 second? It's impossible, no? Well, if it's all about focusing on HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Neshama, so then what? It's exactly that thing. It's Al Regel Echad. Because it's l'malam and Azman, it's l'malam and Ateva, it's beyond everything, because it's really connecting it back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And once you're plugged into the source, you're beyond this world. And says the Sfas Emes, again, what's regilus? Regilus means the things we become accustomed to, habituation. And that's one of the things that's most koach hahergil is so difficult to overcome. We just get used to doing things in a certain way, and it's hard to change. Tshuva's hard. But what do we want to do? We want to bring that connection, gam lahargilus, ve'yeshivu al yidei avas Yisrael, through a certain sense of avas Yisrael, through connecting to other Jews. In a funny way, I don't know, funny, but in an interesting way, you can get out of what you're habituated to. We're so set in our ways sometimes. It's so difficult to change. We think about it, we talk about it, but in reality, it's like, okay, come on. If you've ever tried to diet, or forget like ruchni things, just physical, regular things. Have you ever tried to change up your diet, change up your routine, change what time you're going to be waking up in the morning, what time you're going to go to bed at night? It's so difficult. It's so hard. But says the Sfas Emes, when you're connecting to Avas Yisrael, and it's funny because you wouldn't think intuitively, I wouldn't think at least, intuitively that Avas Yisrael is going to be the thing, it's going to be the impetus for change. But he's saying when you're connecting to the Jewish people, you're plugging into a source that's L'malam and Ateva. And that's going to allow you to go beyond your normal, confines of what you've been doing your whole life, the normal framework of where you found yourself. But we know Korach, so Kinah took him out of the world. What does it mean? Pirush shelo yochal lehiskayim b'soch ha'elam. He wasn't able to live and to exist within Helam. What's Helam? So hiddenness. A certain sense of like not being able to connect to the real thing, and he's kind of caught behind, and he's only seeing the superficial. He's not connecting to what's really going on in the world. He's not seeing who's really running the world. Sheha'itza rak listabik b'nekuda hane'elemes shiba olam haza. Our avoda is to connect to the things that you can't really see. Our avoda is to connect to what? To panemius, to spiritual things, to things that you can't put your finger on. Who was I talking to? Maybe we were talking about this. I don't know. Maybe it was us. I always found it interesting that how do you gauge a person's relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu? In a funny way, I've always found that a woman's relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu is like way more panimi and intimate than a man's, and I'll explain why. This might be kind of funny, but I think it's a powerful yesod. Think about like shidduchim. Okay, some of us are maybe almost there. We'll see. A few years away, and classically speaking, when like a girl is like in shidduchim, right? So she says she's interested in a guy that what? I don't know. Let's just say for a second, Lamashal. She wants a guy who davens 3 times a day and goes to his Sfas every Wednesday night, right? Or Kovei Yitim Batorah, right? So davens and learns. Like there's certain, you'd call it like measurables, almost. Like, oh, is a guy doing X, Y, and Z, and for whatever reason, right or wrong, it's a separate discussion, but we judge a person's quote like frumkeit based on those measurables. But like for a girl, those don't exist. Not like asking, does she go to minyan 3 times a day? Is she kavati itim Torah? That's also like a fun. You don't. I mean, not you. I didn't ask. It was my wife, like kavati itim Torah. Her relationship and her quote, again, I hate the word, but like the frumkeit is it seems to be like, again, there are always going to be like superficial things you can point to, but I find that maybe like her relationship is so much more personal because it's not based on certain checklist things that you're doing. It's a pretty wild thing to think about. But I think we should also strive for that. Meaning, even if we have certain things that we're trying to do, also making sure we're getting to minyan, make sure that we're kavati itim Torah. So the Sfas is pushing us to don't just get caught up in the superficial things, right? But the ha'itza rak lestabik b'nekuda hane'elemes sheba olam haza in teres. To think about the things that people can't see, to think about things that people can't necessarily put a finger on. That's a Kadosh Baruch Hu. To point to a person's neshama, that I can't see that, but you can sense it, you can connect to it, you can draw it out of a person, you can see the aura in a person. Maybe these are all themes that we've been seeing in the Sfas this entire year. The idea of focusing on the panemius and drawing that out in a person. When we do that, we connect to Ahavas Yisrael, when we connect to the Jewish people. So you're connecting really to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and that brings you up to a level that's Lamala Min HaTeva. So that's Nekuda number 1. Nekuda number 2 is the following. I saw this Sfas Emes, and I think it's Kedai to wake up in the morning today. It's Kedai to come here just to see this bar. So good. Kafresh Lamed Vav, he says something amazing. Really, this could be the end of the previous piece, which is like a 2.5 column shtickle, so it's a long piece. But in the pagination, that's a fancy word, but in the way it's printed in mine, so it's just a little paragraph. But it starts al pi pshuto, al pi pshuto, which is why I think it's the hemshich of the previous piece. But check out this Torah from the Sfas Emes. Al pi pshuto yesh lomo derech ish hayashar ba'avodas habore kol she'ole madrega yoser. So we should learn from people. And we should learn that the derech ish hayashar ba'avodas habore kol she'ole madrega yoser Yodea chashivas kol davar katan. Any big person knows the value of something small. Any big person knows the value of something small. Sharei Moshe Rabbeinu olav hashalom shahaya kama madrigos lamayla mehem. Moshe Rabbeinu was the goat. He's greatest of all time. Haven chavivus bechinas halavim shenitan lahem me'ashem yisparach. He understood how chaviv the Levium were. He understood how precious the avodas halavim was in the eyes of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Moshe himself was a Levi. Aaron was the Kohen. But he understood the avodah of the Levium. V'heim, check out these words, V'heim his nasu. And they were elevated. Meaning he understood their avodah, he understood how precious it was in the eyes of Kadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore he's saying, you guys are unbelievable. You're geshmak. V'hayazeh laharos lahem al asher amru, u'mado atis nasu. Hera lehem ki afal pisha zocha lekol ila madrigos chaviv be'inav kol davar katan v'golda b'avodas habore lechin zocha lekol zeh. Check this out. What's he saying? He was showing them how beautiful their avodah was. And what did Korach va'adaso say? Mado atis nasu. Why are you elevated? Why are you, Moshe and Aaron, greater than everybody else? Ki kol eido kulum kedoshim. We're all pretty frum. You think you're better than us? The Sfas Emes says, Chevra, you were missing the point. Ki afal pisha zachal lekol eile. Yeah, you guys got to a certain madrega. Chav be'inav. Kol davar katan v'gadol b'avodas haborei. Whether it's big or small, whether you're the Kohen Gadol or you're just a regular Kohen head, your avodah is precious in the eyes of Hashem. L'chein zachal lekol zeh. That's why Moshe was zocha to become Moshe Rabbeinu, because he understood the value of the little things. He appreciated the tiny little things that nobody else saw. He appreciated the value of giving $1 to tzedakah. You're not giving $1 million check. He understood a mincha on a Tuesday afternoon. Or maybe we don't have the best kavanah in the world and we're distracted at work. Or maybe we're at the office somewhere in, I don't know, Yehupitzville, Illinois, and we daven a mincha b'yechidus because we're not going to be able to get back to the community by Zman. So you daven b'yechidus and you're thinking, what am I? I'm daven b'yechidus. I'm like jumping back into my car to get to the next nursing home, or whatever it is. So as long as we downplay those small things. I'm running out. I'm just doing a Mishnah. I'm learning some Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, and I don't know. I'm looking at the artful side of it. Am I really even like? Does it count as a person who's a gadol understands the chashivas of a davar katan? La'fukehem shemiyad zilzalu b'shiros shelahem ubikshu yoser. Korach said what? Why are you better than all of us? We want to be the Kohanim Gadol, or I want to be the Kohen Gadol. Why is it just you, Moshe, and Aaron? The Sfas Emes is saying that Korach didn't appreciate his own purpose, his own avoda. He didn't understand what he was meant to be doing in this world. And when you don't appreciate your avoda, when you don't appreciate what you're doing, so you always want someone else's. I want to do more. I want to do something else. I want to be someone else. I want to live somewhere else. I want to have a different car. I want to go on a different type of vacation because I can just be like, why can't I have that? And the Sfas Emes is saying, no, recognize the heim his nasu. Recognize that you taka are elevated. You're doing amazing things. You're involved in a lot of really good things. Your avodah is precious in the eyes of Hashem. But Kolzman that we're looking at the other person and saying, what does this guy have? What is this guy doing? How is this guy living? So then we undervalue our own avodah. Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to tell them, no, you guys are special. So you're not the Kohen Gadol. You're not, the number one. You're not the lead singer of the Levium. You're singing harmony, your backups, whatever it is, That's chashiv. That's chashiv. But we're so caught up in looking at other people and trying to see what they're doing and wanting to be like them. I don't know if anybody has the manicure when you are misatef, pass me that sit right there. When you're misatef batzitzis in the morning with your talis. So what do we say? Anybody say it? I guess not. Ma yakar, well, after the bracha, very good. Wait a minute. Ma yakar chasacha elokim uvnei adam betzil kenefecha yechasayin. And then we say a little bit more there. Ma yakar chasacha elokim uvnei adam betzil kenefecha yechasayin. And we're covered up under the wings of, we take refuge in the wings of Hashem. This is a powerful thing if you think about it though. Why is it that we have to cover ourselves? To say Ma yakar chasacha elokim. To appreciate the chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have to cover your face. Completely wrap yourself. So my friend told me a word from Malach Biederman that sometimes in order to appreciate the chesed that we're the beneficiaries of and how much Hashem showers upon us, sometimes you can't look at other people. Because if we're looking at other people, we're not going to appreciate what Hashem gives us. We're always going to be saying, oh, but that guy drives this car, or that guy makes this much money, or he has this kind of job, or he's going to this kind of school, or he's learning here, or he's all the different things that we are looking at from other people. If you want to appreciate the gifts that Hashem gives you, stop looking at everybody else. So you wrap yourself with the talis, and then, only then can you say, Ma yakar chasacha elokim. I was thinking it's a very similar idea. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah talks about when Moshe Rabbeinu is pleading and davening with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So Kadosh Baruch Hu shows him how to say the Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim. And the Gemara says that he's misatef himself like a chazan. Kiviyachol Hashem does this. He shows Moshe Rabbeinu this image, and we learn from there how to daven and how to do the Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim, basically. How to say the Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim. So I think it's a very powerful thing in the context of tshuva. Because so often in the context of tshuva, again, I'm speaking from my own personal experience, but I would imagine it resonates a little bit with other people. Especially during the Yom and the Rabbah, we're in shul so much. You're in close quarters, you're seeing other people. So maybe this happens to you, maybe not, maybe I'm just embarrassing myself here, but like when you take your 3 steps back in Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, and maybe you like pick your head up to see like, how am I doing? Where's everyone else holding? And I think very often in the context of tshuva, it's not just that little cute, but very real mashal about the finishing your daf for Shemon Esrei. But I think it's a lot of times in tshuva, you're looking at other people and what other people are doing, Elul time, Yom Noram time. How are they davening in shul? What are they doing? How are they upping their game? And very often we begin to compare and live our lives relative to other people around us. And this idea of Hashem showing Moshe Rabbeinu, put the talus over your head. Because when it's over your head, there's only one way you can look. You have the blinders on, and you can only run forward. You stay in your lane, you don't worry about anybody else in the race, and you do your thing. Very often, one of the ikuvim, I would say, something that inhibits our growth in Avodas Hashem is looking at other people and thinking about what other people are doing. So Korach says it's Sfas Emes. Korach was so concerned with other people and what everyone else is doing and what everyone else is attaining and doing, and what Moshe is getting, and what Aaron Cohen is, how Aaron Cohen is leading the Jewish people. So he basically said, I don't even care about the job I have and the tafkid I have and the avodah I have, because I want to be like him. But when you're doing that, you devalue. Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, look what you do, it's an amazing thing. And I think if we just sometimes pause and reflect about our own personal avodah, if we can remind ourselves that Hashem loves every single thing we do. Meaning every time we do a mitzvah, even if it's not quote unquote the biggest mitzvah in the world, it doesn't get all the fanfare. It doesn't get on, MKY status. I don't know. You guys are holding or not, whatever. Right? It doesn't make MKY status. Just used to start looking at statuses. I don't know. But it doesn't get on MKY status. You have a chavrusa and no one's taking video. Oh, the kid from Ida Crown is learning during Pinus Man. Unbelievable. No one's saying that. But you know that you're in the business, right? So that is unbelievable and Hashem loves it. That's gival. So I think if we have to remind ourselves, be mechazik ourselves, that the avodah that we're doing is amazing, even if it's small. And that's where excellence comes from. Excellence, galus comes from appreciating the small things. So I think that's another nakuda to think about. What time is it? It's a little glare on the clock there. Huh? 15. Oh, we're crushing it. Okay. Let me share just a slam dunk Torah, not on the sheets, but it's so good. If you ask any kid, Redlick's gonna go, his kid's a future rebel, right? Based on all the videos. He asks his kid, what's the craziest thing that happens in Parshas Korach? What's he gonna say? Huh? No idea. Okay. Ground opening up, swallowing Korach. It's a pretty wild one, right? What do you say?
You said this yesterday about the flower?
Yeah. So if you think about it, it's kind of funny because it's like a boss move. First of all, we don't really have Moshe Rabbeinu saying, make this happen. The whole episode of the ground opening up and swallowing Korach is bananas. But if you look at the Hemshech LaParsha, is that checkmate? What's the response from the Jewish people? You brought us out to kill us? What's happening here? Fast forward a little bit of the Parsha. What's the move that convinces the Jewish people? So Moshe Rabbeinu says, everyone take your stick. Right? You take the Nisim of every Shevet, the Nasi of every Shevet, write your name on the stick, throw it into the circle or the pile, and we'll have a stick with Aaron Cohen's name on it. And whichever stick blossoms, a little almond bud on top. So that's going to be the leader of the Jewish people. That's going to be the true Kohen Gadol. Everyone says, fine, deal, sounds great. What happens? So we know Aaron Cohen's stick blossoms, little almond bud on top. And was like, okay, Aaron Cohen's the leader, Gewalt. I don't understand. The ground opening up and swallowing Korach va'adaso, that's boss level stuff. I mean, an almond bud is cool, but is that the most convincing thing? Those like, come on now. Those like falling asleep with the almond bud over here in the back, right? So why is it so convincing? Why was that the thing that convinced the Jewish people to say, fine, Moshe and Aaron are the true leaders? So Rav Leibel Eger in the Sefer Torah Emes says, how do we lead people? How do we encourage people? How do we move people to the next point? So he says, if you intimidate and threaten and scare people, so maybe at best it'll work in the short term, but it's not going to have long-term gains. If you show people that you're in it for them and you're going to help them grow and you're going to help them blossom, and that there's positive growth involved, so then they're going to want to get behind you. You think about it as a coach or a teacher or as a parent or as a manager of people at work. So you can scare people, you can intimidate people, but again, it's not going to have the effect that you really want it to have. If you do it in a positive way, in a growth-oriented way, so people are going to want to get behind that. Not only that, points out Rav Gedalia Shor, that it was a stick, meaning it was a dead piece of wood. And they, meaning the Jewish people, or Korach, got people to think, oh, Moshe and Aaron, they're already old. They've peaked already. What about the new up-and-coming chevra, so to speak? The stick symbolized that a person who's, so to speak, made it already is going to continue to grow. And whatever age we're at, whatever station or point in life we're at, there's always more to do, and we can always grow. And to never say that I'm done and I've made it and I'm Yotzei. Aaron Cohen was a person who was always going to be moving forward. And Agav, once I'm saying a couple little varlach on the parsha, it's also pretty amazing to appreciate that Aaron Cohen doesn't say a single word in this week's parsha. Korach is really coming after Aaron. And Aaron doesn't say a word. Sometimes people come after us, sometimes people say things about us. People want to get into it, they want to pick fights. They sometimes, it happens at the Kiddush or Shabbos table, they ask questions where they're really trying to be a kachalefel, stir the pot. Yiddish, kachalefel. Yeah. Yeah, whatever, They want to stir the pot, they want to, get under your skin. And Aaron Cohen's teaching us that you don't always need to respond. You can shrug, I don't know. It's a good question. Shrug, I don't know. Yeah. They ask you a question. What do you think about, X, Y, and Z? I don't know. Not sure. And just move on. Just let it go. Just kind of move on. I think that's an important Musar Haskell. Let's do a Torah here from Rosh Alter. On the second side of the page, he points out the following. The first two paragraphs, we'll skip inside. But the first two paragraphs, he basically says that if we are medayik in the words of Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't looking just to mess over Korach, but he was looking for a Pesach for Korach to do tshuva. The pasuk says, "Ata v'kol adascha hayu lifnei Hashem, ata v'hein v'Aaron machar." I guess we'll read it inside on the top right hand side. Fine, we'll do it. The hayal lomar in the second line, "Ata v'kol adascha v'Aaron hayu lifnei Hashem machar, u'b'zeh lo hayitzarich lachzor lilichvo ata v'hein." Meaning, points out the Or Chaim HaKadosh, why does the pasuk seem to have to double up? V'yesh lomar shemoshe Rabbeinu olav Hashem raya mehemna. He was the trusted shepherd of Hashem. Chipes le'orer osam b'tshuva. He was trying to be mechazik and be me'orer Korach and Chevra to do tshuva. V'chein Amar, what did he say? Ata v'kol adascha hayu lifnei Hashem. Recognize that you're before God. Shvisi Hashem l'negdi summit. If you stop and think why we're here and what our goals are and what are we actually doing, you're standing before God. So maybe that would get you to stop for a half a second. Where it's bolded ta'atzu rega echad, pause. Tifriku me'alechem kol ha'cheshbonos harabim. Stop all the cheshbonos, the calculations, the narishkeit. Tizkru shvisi Hashem l'negdi samid. V'lifnei mi atem omdim. V'tihiyu lifnei Hashem. If you remember that you're standing before God, then tachzru b'tshuva va'azlo nitzrach sheyakrivu ketoras machar. We're not going to have to do this whole song and dance tomorrow with the ketoras, because if you pause and say I'm before God, and everything we've been talking about focusing on the panemius, focusing on the chiyas, focusing on how Hashem is the driving force of everything in the world, and I'm really just supposed to be an agent of God in this world. If you're lifnei Hashem, it's so much easier to do the right thing. Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to remind Korach and Chevra to get in the right mindset. Remember why you're here. That's why the pasuk is a little bit repetitive. Ata v'kol adascha hayu lifnei Hashem. Ata v'heim v'Aaron machar. You and all your chevra will be before God. And then again, he says you and them with Aaron tomorrow. Okay, so that's Nikuda number 1. Jump down to the bottom right hand side, and he says something awesome. You can ask a question. If I'm not mistaken, the pasuk in Mishlei says, Zecher Tzad Gevracha, and the other half of the pasuk, or the corollary at least, I don't know if it's in the same pasuk, but the corollary is Shem Risham Rekev, something along those lines. That the name of a Rasha should, decay basically, should go to waste. So the Lubavitch Rebbe asks, why do we name a parsha after Korach? Seems to fly in the face of that pasuk. He's not a good dude. I mean, maybe he was at some point, but seems to take a turn for the worse here. Gets swallowed up. Not great. So what are we supposed to learn from Korach? So, Rosh Alter quotes the Balaturim. Because we say in this week's parsha, Ubikashtem gam kahuna. He wanted the kahuna. Because of the Balaturim, Ubikashtem gilmul b'mesora. This word comes up 3 times that we have in Tanakh. Number 1 by us. Number 2, Parshas Ve'eschanan. Ubikashtem misham es Hashem lokecha. Umatzasa ki sidroshena b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha. That's number 2. And number 3 in Yirmiyah, Vikashtem osi, you will search for me. Umatzasem kisidrusheni b'chol levavchem. If you search for me with all your heart, you'll find me. What's the connection between these two psukim? We talk about searching for Hashem with your whole heart. And Korach Vikashtem gam kahuna. So he quotes on the left-hand side that we have Moshe Rabbeinu. Rashi points out Moshe Rabbeinu warned Korach, if you mess with me, if you go ahead with this, it's going to be bad for you. He gave him a very clear warning. And Rashi says that Korach wasn't stupid. He knew exactly what was going to happen. So if he wasn't stupid and he knew exactly what was going to happen, why didn't he stop? Sounds pretty stupid to me. So it says Roshal Alter, because when you are dead set on something, when you are so convinced, when you're so ready to try to do something, you're not going to give up. And it doesn't matter what gets in your way. It doesn't matter who's trying to prevent you. It doesn't matter what kind of obstacles or difficulties or challenges you encounter on the way. You are going to try to do it. We all know when it comes to the Yetzer Hara, there are many times that we have to jump through hoops to satisfy a certain taiva. And when you are convinced that you want to do this thing, and when you've determined already in your mind that you're going to do this avera, so then all the things that try to get in your way, you don't even see them. You're like hopping over them. We jump right over it. So says Roshal Alter something amazing. We take that Nakuda, we take that Midah of Korach, who heard Moshe Rabbeinu warn him very clearly. You know what's going to happen if you do it. And Korach says, yeah, bring it on. I got this. Nothing's going to stop me. So we need to take that Midah and channel it towards our Bikush for our Kadosh Baruch Hu. To say, I'm going to search out Hashem, I'm going to long for Hashem, I'm going to try to connect with Kadosh Baruch Hu, b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, with everything I got. And it doesn't matter what gets in my way, it doesn't matter what tries to prevent me, it doesn't matter all the different things the Yetzer Hara tries to tell us. Listen, dude, what happened yesterday? What happened last Elul? What happened Yom Kippur? You have your little piece of paper that you find in your machzor with all your Kabbalahs for the next year, and you read it in Elul, and you're like, oh my gosh, what a waste of a year. I was such a bum this year. So now you're going to get up and make a new list of Kabbalahs or what you're going to try to work on for the upcoming year. The Yetzer Hara is like, come on, Stromer, you're ridiculous. You can't do it. And all the things you want to do. I'm going to try to be better with my Shalom Bayis. I'm going to try to be better with my Kibbut Av Ha'im. I'm going to try to be a better sibling. I'm going to try to be a better father or son or anything. All the things that we want to do better and more of. And the Yetzer Hara is going to say, what? Who are you kidding? You're a joke. You're a joke. Look at the Lashon, just on the bottom left-hand side, if you have it. Smack in the middle of that bottom paragraph. 5 lines in the bottom. Amnon yesh mechsholos v'yesh hestaros. There are challenges, there are obstacles, there are difficulties. Nechshalti v'nafalti etmo. I've messed up yesterday. V'ulai ekashel. Maybe I'll fall, maybe I'll mess up gam ba'atid. Aval ini ose shum cheshbon. I'm not going to make any cheshbonos. I'm not going to start, should I, can I, will I be able to do this? No. El davar echad bilvad. What's the one thing that we need to be thinking? I want to be close to God. I want to search. I want to yearn. I want to get closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Like David Melch says, Kirvas v'lekim litov. When that is your number one overarching goal, so all the things that can potentially prevent us from getting there, we're just going to hop right over. That's what we're supposed to be taking from Korach, saying he had a goal in mind, and nothing was going to stop him. Not even Moshe Rabbeinu warning him very clearly. Moshe Rabbeinu of all people, Moshe Rabbeinu was saying, this is what's going to happen if you mess with me right now. If you mess with God, if you start up with Aaron, it's bad. And Korach says, bring it on. I don't care. Right? He's wide-eyed, like, I'm going to do this anyway. And we all say he's crazy. So the same thing has to be true for us in our bikush, in our drive to come close to Kadosh Baruch Hu. We have to say, I'm going to, and whatever inyan it is, maybe just to bring it back and connect to what we saw, it could be something small. It doesn't need to be big. But that small thing, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say Aleinu from a sitter. I'm going to commit to not put away my sitter until after Aleinu. I'm going to bench from a bencher, or I'm going to say Elam Michya from a bencher. Whatever small thing we do, but we're going to say, this is my thing and I'm going to do it. Because ultimately, it has to be b'chol levavcha v'chol nafsha. As long as we have that in mind, God willing, we'll be successful in our avodas Hashem. Hold it here. Everybody have a fantastic rest of your week. Shkech Dov. Great to see you.
And see. They say that thing about the relationship with the man and woman and presenting together.
Yeah.
They say that like women have stronger action than men because they have more sense to do.
Oh, okay, good.
They say that.
Something like Mitzvah Sesi Shazman Grummer or something like that.